The US State Department has removed Syria from its list of state sponsors of terrorism. It comes after Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa ended decades of isolation and restored ties with the US after toppling the Assad regime in 2024. Syria has been on the list for nearly 5 decades, cutting the country off from international finance and trade. Let's get more on this. Joining us from Washington, D.C. is Michael Ratney. He's formerly served as the U.S. Special Envoy for Syria and is currently a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you for joining the program. So, Mr. Ratney, you know the Syria file extremely well. What was your reaction to the news that the U.S. was removing Syria from the terrorism list today? Did Damascus actually earn this decision, or is Washington giving up one of its biggest pieces of leverage too soon?
So thanks for having me on. I think it was the right decision. And I know we tend to think of it, especially in Washington, in terms of leverage, retaining leverage, giving up leverage. But the fact is, the Syrian economy was in dire straits. And I think the assessment was, not just in Washington, but in the region, that if they had a chance, if Ahmed al-Sharaa had a chance, it was going to be because the economy could breathe. So better let the economy breathe, release the sanctions. And if there's problems, it's much easier to put sanctions on than it ever is to take them off.
Yeah, as you say, Washington has been talking about giving Syria a fresh start. But what does this decision realistically really change on the ground for ordinary Syrians and the Syrian economy?
So there's been a steady reduction of this vast web of sanctions that's been in place, as you noted, for the last 5 decades. This is actually one of the last ones, the designation of the regime, of the government as a state sponsor of terrorism. It's something that made sense when it was Bashar al-Assad who was running the country. And now it really makes much less sense. Now, what it changes is this. Companies, investors, traders, people that are interested in participating in the Syrian economy, hopefully in ways that create jobs for Syrian people, still had reluctance to do so. Even though many of the sanctions were released and waivers were available, they still didn't have clarity. They didn't know in the long run whether they would face legal liability. So this is not the final step, but it's a big step to give businesses clarity and faith that they can engage in Syria without legal liability. And that should, maybe not immediately, but eventually have knock-on effects for Syrians that find jobs, that are living in an economy that's much more vibrant.
President Ahmed al-Sharaa has promised to distance Syria from Iran and Hezbollah. Is that genuinely happening, do you believe?
Yeah, I mean, the whole ideology of the group that he sprang from was deeply antithetical to the Iranians, to Hezbollah, to their whole ideology. It doesn't surprise me at all that one of his first steps was to ensure that, for example, Iran doesn't have access to Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are no friends of the Iranians.
And we have these talks ongoing now between Syria and Israel, being mediated by the United States. Do you think today's decision strengthens Syria's hand in those negotiations?
I think it does, in the sense that it probably shows the Israelis that the United States, I guess President Trump in particular, has their back. I mean, this has been a deeply troubling relationship in which the United States seemingly has been on the side of stability in Syria, and the Israelis continue to stoke instability, including through bombing of an airbase just a few days ago in the north of the country. So I think from the perspective of al-Sharaa, it helps him show Israel and the whole region that the United States is on his side.
Michael, really good to get your perspective on this. Michael Ratney, who formerly served as the US Special Envoy for Syria, is now currently a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.